Okay, so is Pokemon Shuffle more than a bit of a cynical reskin of Puzzle and Dragons with some Pokemon elements thrown in for good measure? I'm joined by Tom Phillips.
Hello.
And Christian Donlan.
Hello.
Who've both played it and hopefully can try and answer that question.
This could be a really short interview if that's the question.
Yes.
It's more.
No, wait.
No, it's not more.
Wait. Which way around did you say?
I take it back. We've got 10 minutes.
We're going to be here a
This
while.
is confusing. Okay, what do you think of Pokemon Shuffle? Tom, start us off.
I think that it is a bit of a disappointing game. I quite enjoy match 3 things. I've nothing against them personally. You know, if you like puzzle games, then fair enough. But its use of the license and the free-to-play make it a bit of a disappointment. But I don't think the free-to-play is the thing that breaks it. I think that it is a fundamentally disappointing game, even if it was, you know, a regular price download.
Yeah, I think whenever you talk about free-to-play, people, generally free-to-play evangelists, get very annoyed. So you have to make a crucial distinction. That I think we are now living in a world where there's lots and lots of examples of very positive free-to-play. And the one everyone keeps coming back to is League of Legends, where you buy the bits you want. And
Or if you've got better taste, Dota 2.
Yeah, okay. See, now this really, I want to talk to you about this afterwards, but that's another day. But you buy the bits you want and you have them forever. This is very much, Pokemon Shuffle is very much, it's energy-based and timer-based, and it's the kind of free-to-play game where you don't really own anything and you could keep paying forever because you're just paying to get back to the game quicker when it's imposed, when it's dropped the shutters on you. And so I think it is worth saying not all free-to-play games are bad, and for a long time everything free-to-play got tarred with the same brush, but I think this is a pretty primitive...
Yeah, this feels like a little bit older from what I've seen, the kind of freemium model that came from Facebook, social networking, and
It
iOS.
feels very Zynga in its implementation, which is so disappointing, I think, because it comes from Nintendo. So as a fan, and also as a bit of a Pokemon fan, I could come up with so many better ways that it could have been implemented, and it's disappointing that it's not.
Don't you feel there are even better ways that they could have implemented this model? Because so you have a maximum of 5 hearts that the game gives you automatically, and each heart you cash in a heart every time you take a turn. Even then, they could have done it a little more gently. It could have been a heart could last until you have lost a match. But instead, it's 1 heart per match, regardless of how the outcome works. So
there are loads of other examples like that. So you can win a match and still not catch the Pokemon at the end.
Talk to me about catchability.
Catchability. We've been discussing in the office.
Such a terrible word.
No, we can't work out exactly how. Okay, so there's at the end of the match, you then have you've beaten it. Maybe you've tried a couple of times. You've got an S rank, the top rank. You can't have scored a higher rank when playing against this Pokemon.
Nothing higher than S.
No, for some reason. That's just how video games work. And then the mechanic for catching the Pokemon comes up, and it gives you a percentage, and it could be something tiny, something big, and it seems to be completely random.
It's the percentage of catchability.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem to have any relation on your progress or...
Do you want me to tell you why this is even more frustrating as well, though? Because if you do fail the catch, or if you want to increase that percentage, you can use a jewel, which surprisingly is something that you can purchase in-game.
So, but there's one thing here which is really interesting. So the game is, I think, fairer than it seems in certain ways, in that often you will have Pokemon with a low... There's something which gets to the heart of the problem with Pokemon Shuffle, which I know I've made it sound serious and like we should be taking this to the UN. It's not serious. No one's going to remember this game 5 years from now. But like the heart of the problem is... So it is fairer than you would expect. Sometimes you have a Pokemon with a very low catchability and you will catch it anyway. Sometimes you have a Pokemon with very high catchability and you don't catch it. The problem is, regardless of how fair the game is, as soon as developers allow you to pay to adjust the kind of to fight against almost the entropy, to fight against the random number game, as soon as they allow you to pay to adjust that, it makes you question everything that they have done.
Yeah, it makes you question why they decided to go with a percentage catchability mechanic anyway, and then you realise, oh, it's because that ties into a way of charging.
So the way I feel about this game is it's actually even though I don't like the philosophy of the free-to-play mechanic they've gone for, they are surprisingly generous with it. There are things which are definitely wrong, like the time to regain a heart is 30 minutes, and it's just really long, especially if you're a kid, because 30 minutes feels like an afternoon if you're a kid. Like you could play this game and not put in any money. You just have to take really long breaks.
It would take a very long time. I've been playing it at lunchtimes, and so you can earn up to 5 hearts at a time. And once you hit that cap, it won't
It's not
regenerate
banking
anymore.
anything else.
Yeah, and also if you buy more, if you do put more money in, then it won't accumulate 5 more until you go below 5. So you can never.
But the point is, regardless of how generous the game is, and the game is not the worst free-to-play, not the worst implementation of the system I've ever seen, it just makes you question the whole thing. Everything the game does, you suddenly think, are you trying to screw me over?
Which is a big problem when the game is based around RNG, around random number generation.
And
even around the boards themselves, you start thinking, so why has this been made so much more difficult?
I think that is the problem with freemium. It makes you think that. It makes you question.
Yeah, it turns you into a bit of a
decisions.
paranoid. But suddenly you're Warren Beatty in the parallax view, aren't you? And everything is potential conspiracy. The other problem, of course, is that it is aimed at children.
Yeah.
And I think that's grotty.
It is. I'd just like to say, away from all the free-to-play stuff, I find it quite a confusing game to play. Despite being very simple, there are a lot of other things going on which make it not an easy game to sort of really get your head around. And when real money is involved, that is a problem. So we've talked about catchability already. That is confusing. When it's recommending you the Pokemon that you take into a stage to then fight the other Pokemon with, that is confusing because it does not optimize them properly.
Oh, but you don't know the this is really interesting. I don't know Pokemon. Worryingly, I'm reviewing this, but I don't know Pokemon well enough to know if it's choosing the best ones. But my understanding is that it's probably choosing a mixture of the best ones and the ones who you need to level up a little bit.
Right, but I wouldn't call that optimization. I think maybe so. Obviously, there are lots of things going on behind the scenes, but it never explains any of this stuff.
No.
And when it is including various currencies and timers and cooldowns and things. So you can check in every day and it gives you some stuff. When you street pass other people who also play the game, it gives you some stuff. You can modify the items that you take into the fight to change it up and give yourself an advantage. But you don't know the outcome of all of this stuff until it actually happens. And when you're sort of pre-guessing the game by going into it and having bought stuff using a currency you can also buy money with, that is a real problem.
Also, the nature of this kind of match 3. So this is I would say this is a Puzzle and Dragons model of match 3, which people are going to hate me for saying this, but I think it's ruthlessly de-skilled. So match 3, normally you have to have the matches in roughly the right place. This you can move any tile you need to anywhere else on the board. So it's more like Spot 3 than Match 3. There are depths to it, and you can certainly, the more you play, the more you pick up skill, you certainly get better at spotting potential patterns and what's a good match and what isn't. But so many of the time, the playing field is so small that you don't know what's resting above the playing field. So you might make a really good match, and it doesn't trigger an avalanche of additional matches because the gods just weren't with you. You might make a really poor match, but it might trigger this absolute sort of cascade of things which you couldn't have foreseen. It has the same problem that Puzzle Quest and stuff like that have, again, where they just feel as soon as you weaponize the area above the visible board, you start to become really random. You start to feel that skill will get you somewhere, but it won't get you all the way.
And also weaponize the board itself, because
doesn't that feel a little bit like gambling though? Because
the whole game feels like
gambling. Yeah. Because
next time I'll be luckier.
Yeah, well, basically, there's your skill, which actually I think I've played it. I've played it for a number of hours now, and I feel skill actually you get better at spotting. So I think I have got luckier as I've got better, but there is still a huge area which is just luck. You play someone, but oddly works against the microtransactions because you think I'm not going to buy that 5 new moves thing because I will go back and play him and I might just beat him within 3 goes rather than within 15 goes. But this comes into the PopCap thing. PopCap games, you always used to wonder with Peggle, you always used to wonder if behind the scenes they were calculating things to give you, basically if they were cheating their own system a little bit. And with Peggle, so many games end with the triumphant impossible bounce on the last ball, and you think PopCap is probably making this artificially exciting. The problem is when you are paying for a game in pieces, you start to wonder if they're manipulating things to make you pay for the game in pieces.
See, there comes the paranoia again.
I feel like
because the way that the game makes itself harder in later levels is it starts blocking tiles out from you, and as soon as you start seeing tiles that you really need, so you can mega evolve Pokemon in the game, which just make the tiles a bit more powerful. And when those start to be taken away from you, and they start to be taken away from you seemingly more often than other ones, you can't. That part of your brain can't help but think. What's going on here?
If you put someone in a room for 10 years and you you made them play Pokemon Shuffle and nothing else. That would be terrible, and the Geneva Convention would come into play. But also, they would have one of those rooms like they have in a serial killer movie, where there's just like notepaper all over the wall and like little red string attached. They would have glimpsed.
Someone on NeoGAF is probably doing this already, just
the
for
heart
fun.
of the game. For me, though, it's a pretty simple proposition. Though I don't know how you feel, because it does a lot of stuff which is problematic, but it wraps all of these problematic things around a game which I really don't think you want to play anyway, because there are better games.
Well,
there are definitely better Pokemon games out there.
This is kind of interesting because so last year, in fact, the very same dev team that has made Pokemon Shuffle released a game called Pokemon Link Battle.
You've been in the room. This is the first of your little red strings.
Wait, what could it mean? I honestly wish it was that complex. Really, it's the same game, the same model, very much inspired by Puzzle and Dragons, with a Pokemon kind of theme to it. But this was a paid game. So Pokemon Shuffle, to me, looks like an experiment to see if freemium is more successful than a game they've already released.
They're doing A/B testing with games. Yeah. When you say that and you've done your research and everything, I do see you kind of pulling out a picture of like the presidential the presidential car in Dallas or whatever, and you're like looking in the background. There's a Mudkip by the grassy knoll. Mudkip's a Pokemon, right?
Yeah, yes. That's right. So I guess one final question then, and this is something that we will find out over the next years. Do you think Nintendo are trailing freemium here?
Yes,
and with hopes that they can bring in other of their hashtag brands into the play?
This isn't the first time they've played around with free-to-play. They tried it with Steel Diver as well. And I think it's just a natural, them not doing a very good job sort of very early on in their explorations with it. I could name you a load of ways that they could do it better in this game and in other games. Not that I'm advocating them pushing it into other games, but the more that Nintendo's investors are told, try mobile-sized games, try smaller-sized games, try games on mobile platforms, they are going to have to... And it's just the way that the industry is going right now. And there are ways that they can do it successfully. They just haven't nailed it with this example yet.
Don't you feel that as soon as Nintendo... I know I sound like a Nintendo fanboy, which is ironic, because I really don't think I am. But I do get the impression that as soon as Nintendo want to do something properly, they generally nail it. And I think what this is them...
I don't know that they do.
sense this is them... It can't hurt to do this and see what happens, but I don't get the sense when I play Pokemon Shuffle that anybody loved this game at any point in its development cycle. It has a very unloved feel.
To be fair, this isn't a Nintendo game. Pokemon isn't an entirely Nintendo franchise. It's owned by the Pokemon Company and all of that other things. When Nintendo really want to... When they are forced to do, or when they think they can do free-to-play well, they will do it well. And they'll do it... Oh, God, I hope they don't do it in a Mario game. But...
Well, there's a Mario Puzzle and Dragons coming,
which is a full price thing.
Yeah, weird. I don't understand.
It seems like a safe experiment.
I don't get why you'd want to play Puzzle and Dragons without the free to play thing. I don't think it's an entertaining enough game to work without the hooks it kind of gets into you through the free to play thing. It's very odd.
That's a disgusting realization, isn't it?
You could say that about any mobile game. So like Threes, for example.
Yeah.
You know, I'm very happy I paid a couple of quid for that, and I'm never prompted to pay again.
It's weird, but but
it's always on my phone whenever I need it on the train.
I mean, so the problem is over the last few years, people have started to see that as money on the table. They'll go I was at a conference and there was a guy there who was speaking at a conference, and he said to me, "I don't get Minecraft," and I was like, "Well, Minecraft's pretty successful." And he was like, "I don't get it because there's a point at which you can stop paying for it, and that's the moment where you've bought it." And people see this. The point at which you stop paying for a game, they see that as money left on the table. That if you love something, you should pay for it forever, which is pretty exciting.
We're getting sidetracked, but Minecraft gets around that by adding extra skins and things. So if you really like it, then you can. But yeah. This is not a great example of free-to-play. Hearthstone is a great example of free-to-play.
Yeah, no, that really is.
Because Dota 2 is a fantastic example of free-to-play.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about this.
Games which let you play as long as you want, and if you really like it, tinker with the experience.
And buy the pieces you want,
doesn't.
So is there any reason to play this at all?
There's no reason not to play it and not pay any money and see if you like it for 5 minutes, but is there a reason to play it and put money in? No.
I think if you have kids, don't let them play it. This is the first Nintendo game I've wanted to say my kids are not going to play this.
I had read that in Japan there is a limit on the amount of money that you can spend in one day, and I've been trying to find out if this is the same in the UK. I haven't been able to yet, but in Japan anyway there is a daily cap.
Pokemon, what's happening? Thank you very much for listening, and yeah, the review will be up around the same time as the video, actually. So if you want to,
haven't actually written it yet.
Yeah,
but
we're in the past. This is exciting. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Chansey, quick, the defibrillator! Chansey! Set for 200 volts. And we're clear. Raise power to 300 volts.